whole computer screen full of people. So I'm actually feeling the nerves right now. You're going to have to excuse me if I speed up a bit. I'm going to try and slow down.
You'll be fine, honestly.
Thank you, darling. Yeah, let's hope so. Right, so where do I begin? So my name is obviously Rachel. I am a spiritual life coach, an energy healer, and a mindfulness and meditation therapist. So I do those three separate things, but they all come under the umbrella of Happy in the Moment, which is a business I set up about 3 years ago now. So just to let you know a little bit about me first, just to put everything into a frame for you. So I grew up with two other sisters and two teenage parents in a very disruptive, quite abusive household. And at the age of 6 or 7, we were removed and then put with my grandparents. So I lived with my grandparents from about the age of, I think it was about 6 or 7. And it was when I lived with those in the early years, I mean, the three of us, this is going back to the 80s, the three of us shared a double bed. And I remember waking up one night and looking over the other side of the room, and I could see spirit in my room. I could see a man and a woman, and I can still see them in my mind's eye now. But of course, when I woke up in the morning and told Nan and Grandad about it, they were very much just like it was a dream. But you know how you just know and you remember it all those years later. So anyway, life carried on, and neither of my parents, well, I was only in touch with one of my parents then, but my grandparents, they didn't believe in anything spiritual. Religious people were cranky. You know, you walk to the other side of the street if anybody showed an active belief in anything religious. So it wasn't something that I was brought up around, spirituality at all. But I had this curious interest in it, I think. And I remember at one point saying to my grandparents, in the supermarket, there was a child's prayer book, and I absolutely adored this book, and I nagged them to buy me this book, and they did, to their credit. And I just adored the prayers. There was just something about being able to ask for help from somebody much bigger and much grander than us that I loved. Not that I actually believed in it, but I did buy into that prayer book. Anyway, spirituality didn't come into my life then, I would say, until I was about 19 years old, which was when I had my first daughter. And then a lot of emotional issues from when I was young started to resurface. I couldn't quite equate my childhood to the love and the fierce protection that I had for my daughter, and things started to resurface. So to cut a long story short, I went to a spiritual healer at the Natural Therapy Centre in Kings Lynn, a wonderful woman by the name of Pam Lyons. And this was the first time I delved into anything spiritual. She gave me a spiritual healing session. And I just remember all this, as I was laying there on the therapy table, all of this sort of black ash rising out of my body. And I couldn't understand what it was all about, but I was absolutely grateful to her. And she gave me one piece of advice that day. This was 17 years ago now. She said to me, Rachel, what you'll come to learn is that your greatest enemies in life are actually your greatest teachers. And at a soul level, your parents love you very much because they have given this existence to you in order to give you strength and support. And although at the time, at 19 years of age, I had too much crap going on, I didn't absorb that. I got it years later. Anyway, Pam said to me, I would go back to her for regular MOTs, just sort of trying to clear the baggage off. And she said to me, one day you'll be a healer. You have a wonderful blue aura about you. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever you reckon. I just kept going back for my own sake, really. So she was right. She invited me along on a spiritual healing course. And at this time, I then had 2 children. I'd done the spiritual healing course, and I felt like a total fraud. I everybody was saying, oh yes, I felt this, I experienced that, and this happened. And there I was, 22 years of age, all of my baggage and life rubbish stuck to my body. And I was just like, no, I'm feeling nothing. I'm getting nothing. There is no connection here. My mother thought I was involved in some sort of cult and tried to remove me from it. It was just a disaster. So I left all of that behind me for many years. I raised my children. One of my children was born disabled, so that kept me very, very busy. Raised my children, and then I think I can't really pinpoint when it was, but I started to have a really rough time leading up to the birth of my third child. This was about 8 years ago. And naturally, I started to look towards more spiritual things again. I've always loved angels, always been obsessed with them. So they would be through my house. You know, the child's bedroom was decorated with angels and things like that. But I really started to get into my spiritual practice again. I had quite a lot of postnatal depression with my third child and my fourth child. And I really needed to seek help somewhere. I could either go down the route of antidepressants, or I could dig myself out of my own hole and just really try and help myself. So I raided the self-help book section in Waterstones. I bought every spiritual book I could get, every self-help book I could get. I went back to college. I'd done my counselling qualifications, and that really helped me. So I had my personal growth through my counselling qualifications, because of course a lot of that is about self-awareness. And I had my spiritual practice, which I really threw myself into and dedicated myself to. So slowly, I started to get out of this funk, this heavy depression. And it was all through using tools like mindfulness and meditation, and really getting to know my angel team, asking for help, surrendering, trying to get rid of the baggage. And I realized, I thought, I see why I couldn't do spiritual healing all those years ago, because I wasn't healed. I was nowhere near ready to start chucking healing out to other people, because my vessel, I was like fly paper. There was just all this baggage stuck to me that I needed to get rid of before I could even think about trying to help other people. So I also done my Reiki courses, which started to awaken a little bit of the healing energy inside of me. So now I teach mindfulness and meditation. I teach it in pupil referral units. I'm a mindfulness therapist for children with behavioural and emotional needs. I try and develop mindful curriculums for these pupil referral units. I teach mindfulness in the community, in I started in a mental health charity teaching that. Energy healing, I do that as well, but which we'll talk about in a minute. I have quite a unique system, perhaps. And the spiritual coaching has come alongside gradually because of all of my spiritual knowledge now and everything that I do. A lot of people obviously call upon you then for help, don't they? You guys will know. They'll ask you questions and want your input. So that's come up quite naturally as well. So take a breath. What is my healing philosophy? I believe that we are all healers. I think we are all, it's our birthright and our instinct to be healers. When we talk about healing, we're all going through a period of healing right now, aren't we? I mean, as the heavens are moving to align us to this fifth dimension, we're moving from the third up to the fifth. All of us are expanding. All of our vibrations are rising. All of our old dormant chakras are starting to activate again. So we're all in this process of healing all of the time. And as all of the planets align and as this ascension happens, all of these old emotions are starting to resurface. All of these old belief systems, all of these paradigms are beginning to fall and break down. This, of course, is if we surrender to it. So this sort of constant release and surrender and non-resistance to healing is what the world needs and what we're all going through personally. So I think when we speak about healing in general, or about healing with the angels specifically, we're referring to, I think, the need to heal ourselves first and foremost, because that's where healing has to begin, with us, and then to the world collectively, because once we become healed, that energy expands outwards to the world collectively. And then I think beyond that, beyond the other people in your family, beyond your friends and the people you have contact with professionally, I think then that healing can go out to the structures, to the constitutions, to the establishments of the world, and help those to heal on a larger basis. So healing is necessary for us all to sustain ourselves, really. When I think about me now compared to years ago, now my journey is much different to what it was 10 years ago. I'm at the point in my life now where I can see and hear and feel the presence of angels. I've always got angelic presence by my side. And when I started healing, when I started to get back into it and I started to do my spiritual healing and then the techniques you learn in Reiki, what I swiftly learned was it didn't matter which modality I was using, angels were always by my side during the whole process of the healing session. So it became increasingly harder to ignore them, for want of a better word. I mean, sometimes, I don't know if all you other healers are the same, you learn a process to healing, don't you? You think to yourself, oh, okay, this person has this issue. So if they've got a headache, I'll probably start at the top chakra and work my way down, so that we don't have too much energy in the head. You have like this little egoic procedure in your head. But what I started to get happening is that when I sat at the feet of a person and I really just opened up to the energy, and we all have our own little processes, don't we? I'd sit there and do my thing. As soon as I opened up, angels would come in. And whereas I would think to myself, okay, I'm going to start here, I'm going to head to the head and work down. No, that didn't happen. So I'd stand up and I would see hovering over a person's solar plexus, like this huge cake-like energy that was just sat there. And I'd think, oh, okay, so I've got to start there. This probably isn't ideal. You know how the human mind kicks in? But go with it. So I'd go with it, and I'd stand there and I'd stay at the solar plexus and I'd be there 10 minutes later, still trying to move this energy. And I'm thinking, this isn't how I'm supposed to be doing it. This isn't how we're taught to do it, but keep going with it. And of course, all of this sensation was running through my body. I get an awful lot of like pin prickles and rushes. It feels like goosebumps all the way through my body. And then I'll get little hits in places. So my root chakra, I might get a tap at my root chakra, or a little stab in the kidney. So then I think to myself, okay, I'm now supposed to go here. I'm now supposed to do this. And I don't always know why I'm doing it. So if the person on the therapy table was to say, why are you doing that? I can't often say why. I just know that I'm supposed to be there. And touch wood, I'm touching every bit of wood around me, it's having the desired effect. So what I learned over time was to listen and to trust. And that was the biggest thing for me, was getting out of my own way with it, with healing. Does anyone else find that? It's getting out of your own head, isn't it? And actually just trusting what you're getting. So if a client I had recently, I started to get a really stabby head at the back, and my human mind would just want to get rid of that stabby ache at the back and think, oh, that's annoying, let me carry on. But I've had to swiftly wake up and think that stabby ache is there for a reason. So I asked the client if I could put my hand behind their head. I pressed on that spot and she said, oh, that's exactly where I've been having my headaches for the last few weeks. And I thought, oh, there you go. I really must keep trusting. It's all too easy for us not to, isn't it? The other thing that I've learned through doing all of this healing, and it is continuous learning, isn't it? I mean, you don't ever stop, that something new comes up all the time. You just have to trust that they're in control of it, that we're just the vessel. They'll tell us what to do, and as long as you follow it, you're sorted. The person on the bed will be just fine. But what I've really learned with angel healing is that there's nothing really special about it. and we can all do it, whether we consider ourselves healers or not. And all we really need to do is to just open our hearts and pay attention to what it is we're being shown and what it is we know innately. We're all made of energy, all of us, and we all take energy in, we can all send energy out. So all of us have the ability to heal other people as well, whether we've done a course in it or had a fancy attunement or meditated for 10 hours out of 12 each day. We don't have to have done all that. We all have that energy in us to heal. Now, recently I learned that my soul's purpose is to assist in the process of ascension. My job in this lifetime is to try and transform humanity from a place of fear and separation to a place of love and oneness. And I have, in this lifetime, I've been assigned the role of as a divine gatekeeper to try and inspire and empower others to sort of grow and evolve into the fifth dimension. The Elohim, has any of you heard of the Elohim? They started to come through in every meditation that I was having as my guiding team. So I think we all have a sense of, we all have a guardian angel with us. I've never had a sense of just having one guardian angel. I've never been able to pinpoint one guardian angel through all the years I've studied spirituality. And recently I learned from the angels that I have a guiding team. So the guiding team that I have apparently is the Elohim, and they're a tribe who guide me in fulfilling the mission that I have here. So I try to listen to them and tap into them every day through meditation, and there's always a different energy comes forward out of that tribe, if you like, out of that team. And I try to work with them all the time in the work that I do, the workshops that I deliver, the messages that I deliver. I just try and stay authentic to what it is I'm being told in my meditations and what I feel is right. And that's the only thing I can do. So let's talk a bit about, I mean, you'll all know what angels are and archangels, so I don't know if I'm really just preaching to the choir, but for those of you who don't access angels an awful lot, don't know a lot about them, what are angels? So angels are pure spirit. They don't have a physical form, but in true spiritual truth, they don't have a physical form, but they come to us perhaps in a physical form because that's how our mind likes to see them. They are a bridge between heaven and earth, and they are beings of pure consciousness. So they don't necessarily have an ego like we do. They come into me as different, like a different energy signature. So what I've had to learn to do over the years is recognize a different energy signature when it comes in. So when I'm stood with a person doing healing work, I feel Archangel Michael come into my left, and he comes in with a great big whoosh of goosebumps and flowing energy. And I always feel Shamuel come into my right, and he always comes in when I'm stood at the heart center. This is, you start to join the dots, don't you, when you connect, and you think, oh, what's this coming in to my right just as I'm stood here? And I always know when he's about, because I can look down at the person on the table and not know them at all, but just feel this immense appreciation for the lovely soul that they are. You just feel this overwhelming heart openness. So that's a Metatron. Metatron has only been gracing me with his presence probably the last year or so. But what I find is he will come in towards the end of an energy session, and it's not only me that usually feels his presence, but my clients do too. They'll often say they feel something come into the head of the session, and I always sense him coming into the left as well. And funnily enough, he tends to influence not only me, but the people in the session as well. So I will feel the energy of Metatron enter my crown as like this big rush. It almost feels like I'm on fire, to be honest, but it doesn't hurt. It feels like a big rush down my legs and back up again. And I feel like I've got a big flame on the top of my head. And my clients will often experience much the same thing. It doesn't come in all the time, but with one lady, he comes in really strongly all the time. So that's always a privilege when I get to feel him. So they come in with a specific energy, I think. And of course, they are genderless. But when we talk about masculine and feminine energies with angels, what we're really talking about is the vibration of the consciousness that they're expressing in that moment. We're not really talking about whether they're male or female. We'll just feel them as, perhaps like Michael comes in as that really strong, steady influence. So that perhaps feels a bit more male to us. Whereas his twin flame, Faith, when she comes in, she feels like much more of a softer energy. She'll give you sort of a gentle assertiveness and strength, whereas Michael just feels like he's got more balls, if you know what I mean. That makes sense. So that's how I've learned to tell the difference between angels over the years, is the way they make me feel. And it's a constant effort every day to get out of my head, to just feel and not try and intellectualize it all. So they're genderless. They're constantly radiating blissful energy from the divine. They come in with light and love. So I often think as well, when it comes to healing, the more love that you can give in that healing session, I'm not on about laying on top of the person on the therapy table or giving them lots of vocal love, but the more love you can feel in your heart, the more open that your heart is at the time of healing, the more light can come into that situation and the more healing can happen. When somebody's heart is very closed off, and I've had people come to me who feel very closed in the heart center, it's harder for that loving energy to get through, I feel. So the more heart work that we can do, the better in terms of light and love getting through to our vessels, really. Archangels are the ruling angels. So if you sort of visualize a company, if you like, you have the CEO at the top, which is God, the big guy, whatever you want to call him, source, divine. Then you have the archangels underneath, who are like the directors, and then the angels underneath that, who are like the employees, if you like. And the archangels, they control and harmonize everything in God's creation, really. And they're highly evolved. They oversee everything that the angels do as well. Now, I like to work with the divine feminine energies as well as the masculine, simply because I feel their presence an awful lot more now, especially since 2012. All of these lovely divine feminine energies are coming over to support us even more right now. So I tend to work with them as well. I won't just call in Michael, for instance, at the throat. I'll call in Faith as well. And I won't just call in Charity, Shamuel at the heart. I'll call in Charity as well. And actually Virtue, Archaea Virtue is wonderful to work in that area as well. So yeah, I use the both. I don't just use the masculine energies, which are most popular. I use the both of them. What is angel? I've got a little guider here to the right of me with my bullet points on. So the next one, what is angel energy healing? So I call it angel energy healing simply because I started with spiritual healing and then I progressed to Reiki healing, but I swiftly found that actually I probably wasn't using either of those in isolation. I was merging them and then also being given techniques by the angels. So for one healing session that I had, the angel showed me that they wanted me to bridge rainbow light as rainbows over the person and then put bridges between each of their chakras. So that wasn't anything that I was taught in my spiritual healing course or my Reiki course, but something that the angels actually taught me during a session. So I had to incorporate that in each session as well, this rainbow bridge in between each chakra. And they literally stood along the side of the bed and they were showing me these rainbows above the person's head and then a rainbow going as a channel through the person. And rainbows connecting, they, you know, like those fizzy belt sweets, they look just like that, like between the chakras. So I realized I had to bring that in. So little things like that has meant that I now have this, I suppose, a unique system of delivering energy healing. And I will incorporate, I don't always hold hands on, I'm not always hands on, I'm not always hands off, I'm not always still. So a lot of the time I will have to move energy to try and shift it, to break through it. And the angels will let me know when enough is enough. They'll pull back and say, yeah, you can move on or whatever. So I just try and be guided in the moment as to what's needed. So the energy healing that I do, it literally tries to remove those blocks. So I don't necessarily know what's wrong with the person when they come. We usually have a bit of conversation before they come, so I can sort of think to myself, oh, okay, so this person has this issue. Perhaps there's a lot of fear held within a certain chakra. Perhaps they're not speaking their truth. Perhaps something is going on in the throat. Or perhaps their heart is closed off because they've experienced a lot of pain. So, you know, you get an idea for where issues might lie. But until I've actually connected with their energy and the angels come in, I'm not really privy to where I need to be. I just go with that guidance. So the angels' energy, it can remove anything: physical blocks, mental blocks, emotional blocks. It works on the chakras. They always do work on the chakras when they're coming in, because those are our main energy sites, obviously. It also works on the meridians, so all of the little ley lines in our energy body, and it really just brings our bodies back to optimum healing abilities. But what I have found is sometimes people's negative and dense and heavy energy isn't able to shift in just one session. It can be too much for them. So there's a woman I had recently, we were working on some really heavy energy within her solar plexus, and although the angels wanted to keep going and keep going, she was getting quite distressed. You know, she was breathing quite heavy and tears were flowing. And I said to her, are you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm okay. I said, do you want me to stop? She said, no, keep going. And I still kept getting all of this rush of like a goosebump feeling. So I knew that it was important to keep going. But in the end, she just got too distressed. So I asked the angels to sort of back off a bit then, and just said, we'll leave off now and we'll do another session. So we did do another session with her, and brilliantly, her condition is now completely healed, which is fabulous. That was actually a time when Metatron came in. Metatron was a huge power force at that point. So yeah, they really just bring our bodies back to the optimum healing abilities. Yeah, I think that's all I can really say about angel energy healing. Really, it's very specific to me, and in terms of my modality of healing, it's very specific to what I'm getting in the moment. That's the only way I can really describe it, is that it just becomes an intuitive challenge. You know, what's going on with this individual person and how can I shift that? I've studied an awful lot of different practitioners, like Donna Eden. I love her energy work, so I incorporate some of Donna Eden in sometimes with people. I use elements of spiritual healing, elements of Reiki, and I sort of bundle it all together and make a mishmash of hopefully a positive mishmash of everything, and then I try and teach that to other people. In some of my courses, I try and teach that actually you don't have to be a healer to use your energy on somebody else's. If your child is suffering, just by holding your hands on them or moving their energy in a certain direction, if they've got a bellyache, can be really helpful. So I try and teach some of these techniques that the angels give me to people so that it can help them in their personal life and with their friends and family. And that's largely what my courses are about, helping people to heal themselves first, and then teaching them how they can help others to heal. In terms of certain angels to invoke for healing, there are some, who is it? Was it Anna was saying? Anna, I think you were saying earlier about how you're wanting to manifest abundance and you're sort of at war with yourself about that. Because, you know, it's not a selfish thing, in your words, you said, you know, but all of us want to live abundantly, of course, and the angels don't want things to be any different to that. A great archangel to use for abundance is Ariel. So Lady Ariel is a great archangel to call upon. You can simply call her name 3 times, meditate with her, express your desires to her, especially around using the moon cycles is really important. So the new moon and the full moon, for the new moon for manifesting, thinking about what it is you desire, and the full moon for forgiveness and release, especially using Archangel Haniel around the full moon. The releasing moon is really effective, I've found. She's amazing around that time. For general health, it's a good idea for us to call on Archangel Raphael, but also, especially since 2012, his twin flame, Archaea Virtue, she has been taking over a lot of the healing work. She features strongly when it comes to general healing. So call upon her, because she'll give a wonderful balance between the masculine and the feminine. We need both, especially as light workers, we need both of those energies strongly in our systems right now. So call upon the feminine as well as the masculine. Equally, for general health, you can call upon Lady Mary or Charity. They're very good for healing. When it comes to mental health, if I have people come to me with emotional issues, anxiety, depression, really think about calling in those archangels that are about strength and courage and bravery. So there we're thinking about Archangel Ariel. She's the lioness of the goddess. She's depicted with that lovely roaring lion. So she helps to bring us strength and courage. If you're struggling with your mental health or you need strength, she's a great angel to call upon. Also, Archaea Faith. And of course, as her name says, she gives us faith and trust. She helps us to trust in the process of life, really. So she's a lovely one to call in. Michael, who is Faith's twin flame, he gives us that strong, that really strong, assertive energy for strength as well. For women's health, most of us are women here, apart from Martin. Sorry, Martin. For women's health, maybe try Haniel. Haniel is, she is the goddess of the moon. And of course, us women are ruled by the moon and the cycles, aren't we? And she's all about fertility. Gabriel's a good one as well to call in for women, anything to do with women's health. Archangel Hope, and she gives us hope, of course. Addictions. Who's addicted to the biscuit tin at the moment? We've been on lockdown. Me too, Mandy, all the time. Addictions, I like to, if people are struggling with addictive behavior, I like to bring in Zadkiel and Holy Amethyst. These angels work with the purple flame, and the purple flame has only come back to us since the planet has been ascending since 2012. It was originally back in the times of Atlantis. The purple flame was dissolved, but it's coming back now. Sort of God, if you like, has allowed Zadkiel and Amethyst to bring this flame forward to try and heal addictions. So if we can bring that lovely purple flame into the areas where we most feel that addiction, you know, is it in your stomach? Does your stomach want that biscuit? Does your mind want that biscuit? Using that purple flame is really useful for that. And the emotional and mental bodies. So often when I think about healing, I'm just very aware of the time. Am I all right for another couple of seconds, Deb?
Yes, that's fine. And then we'll just might do a quick Q&A if anybody's got any questions. Is that all right?
Yeah. So
Okay,
a lot of illness, in the body is caused by energy that's trapped within the emotional and the mental layers of our aura. And if we can shift a lot of that denser energy from within those layers, then we can often reverse the illness, remove the illness in some way. But it's really key to tap into those layers. And there are some good angels for doing that. And Michael, Lady Aurora, Uriel, they'll really help us to pull those emotions out of those layers of energy. And pray every day. I can't talk enough about prayer. When it comes to your own healing and your own health, visualize yourself in perfect health. visualize yourself as whole and healed, because of course your soul is perfect, it's whole, it's healed. It's just all that crap that we store within the layers of our aura and the physical body that we can just really try and get rid of. So pray every day for good health, visualize yourself, thank the angels for helping you to really live in that powerful vision of health and wholeness. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's amazing. I think
that went nothing like I expected it to go.
Oh no, it was amazing. That's brilliant. Does everybody want to unmute themselves? Thank you.
Fabulous, Rachel.